ready.
Okay, so tonight, for the devotion, I am looking at Colossians 4, and the title of this is Further Instructions. Paul is writing it while he is in prison to the Colossians, and he's basically just saying what they should be doing in their everyday lives. So he says, "Devote yourselves to prayer, keeping alert in it with thanksgiving. At the same time, pray for us as well, that God will open to us a door for the word, that we may declare the mystery of Christ, for which I am in prison, so that I may reveal it clearly as I should. Conduct yourselves wisely toward outsiders, making the most of the time. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer everyone." So I wanted to focus on this and really focus on the part where it says, "Conduct yourselves wisely toward outsiders, making the most of the time." So, making the most of your time, how do we do that in our everyday lives? Because I know that when I sleep till noon, I feel like I am not making the most of my life. So, one way you can do it is to recognize opportunities. I feel that in my everyday life, especially right now during quarantine, I don't recognize my opportunities as much. But when when I go to work at Evergreen Place, I'm there with, a couple of people that may not know Christ, and I don't usually recognize that opportunity. But after reading this over, now I kind of am thinking, I should have been talking to them about what I do at church and how great my school is with connecting us to our faith and stuff like that, instead of talking about other things. Another thing that would help you to recognize opportunities is to be friendly to everybody you meet, because that's really a way to cultivate opportunities in your life to share your faith. Because when you're not being friendly, or you're just being kind of neutral with everybody around you, they're not really going to want to talk to you. And especially during this time, people aren't going to be very happy about you talking to them about God if you're not being friendly about it. Another thing that kind of goes into that is don't force anything. I've known a lot of Christians that feel that they need to force their Christianity onto their friends, especially because they feel like, oh, well, my friend isn't a Christian, so they're not going to be going to the same place as me, so I need them to be having, the same ideas and beliefs as me. But that just makes things almost worse for them. They see the Christian faith as something they need to avoid. Another thing is don't argue. I find myself sometimes not arguing with a person, but with an idea. When my friends kind of bring up something about Christians or Christianity, I kind of just am like, well, that's not really how things are. Here's what I believe. And I don't really argue with them particularly, but I just kind of explain it to them and try to be calm about it, because that's one of the biggest things. And don't scare people into it. Telling people that they're going to go to hell for anything is just not the appropriate way to go about trying to evangelize. But when you get these opportunities, Paul's really just saying, just love on these people, because they may not be getting the love of Christ every day in their lives. And this may be the only opportunity that they will get of getting love from a Christian. So another thing is, in making the most of your time, is really to make the most of your time and just be joyful in every day and be conscious of that joy. I wanted to read Romans 10:9. "Because if you confess with your lips that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And this is just such a joyful and amazing proclamation that if we confess with our lips that Jesus is Lord and believe that God raised him from the dead, we will be saved. That's just such something so powerful that should take us through our days and make us joyful. So, and another thing that should remind us to give us joy is that God will always forgive. And something that I think Sandy Barlow used to say is that God forgiving us is like God hitting an easy button if we ask for forgiveness. Because it's really that easy. So forgiveness in our lives is something we should always reflect on and remember, because a lot of times we get kind of down on ourselves, especially if we feel like we're lost in our faith or we haven't been following God's plans for our lives. So just remember that if you want to get back on that track, God will accept you back with open arms. And whenever you're ready, he's ready too. So just make the most of your time. Don't sleep till noon. And that's more of a message to myself than anybody else. But I hope that it helps you guys too. Thank you guys.